All right, welcome to the Tuesday episode of DB2 for Week 7. David Brem here with Daniel Butler as always. Butler, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. We are in today's episode. We are going to go through all the games. I believe there's 6 teams on bye, which means that's 26 teams left. So 13 games this week. So a lot of teams on bye. So just a heads up there. If you have players, I should have been prepared. I just want to make sure I don't miss any. Jags, Vikings, Chargers, Cowboys, Steelers, or Bills this week. Make sure you adjust your lineups accordingly. And like I said, we're going to go through all the games, preview them, talk about maybe some weird names that we're just kind of thinking about, and just kind of look at it for the whole scope for the fantasy for this upcoming week in week 7. With that said, I do want to just go ahead because because we're going to discuss these just real quick. I'm going to go much quicker than I went last week. The top 10 quarterbacks. There has been a little bit of shift. Josh Allen is currently quarterback 1. We won't, since they're on bye, not really much to talk about there. So I just thought that would be worth noting. He is the guy who was quarterback 1. Mahomes is quarterback 2 on a points per game basis. Brady, Kyler, Hurts, all amazing. Lamar 6, Herbert 7, Matthew Stafford 8, Dak at 9, just below, and then Kirk Cousins. Your guy Kirk Cousins.
I told
We
you.
said it was like a very small difference between he was like 13 last week, and now he's actually in the top 10. So there you go. Kirk Cousins is on a points per game basis number 10. How about that? Which is pretty cool. Running backs, Derrick Henry. Just saying he's running back 1 won't do it justice. So he is 7 points ahead of running back 2 on a points per game basis.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand. McCaffrey needs to come back so he has some kind of competition.
But yeah, it's Eckler behind him. Yeah, Patterson. That's a surprise there. Of course, he's been great on points per game because he's only played 5. Harris at 4, McCaffrey at 5, but he's obviously on IR. Zeke 6, Taylor 7, Aaron Jones 8, Darrell Henderson at 9, tied with DeAndre Swift, and then James Robinson and Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara all kind of in the same spot, tied at running back 11. So Kareem Hunt, unfortunately, going to IR. We'll talk about the Browns soon here, very soon.
Very soon.
Wide receivers, Cooper Cup, another amazing day. You said rest of season. He's your number 1 wide receiver, right? Well,
Yep.
he's 2.5 points ahead of wide receiver 2 right now. Tyreek Hill, Debo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams, Antonio Brown, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Hollywood Brown. And I mentioned Chase Claypool in the one episode. I was like, hey, I think he has a shot to be top 10 with Juju going down. It's actually Deontay Johnson right now is number 10. So I might have been wrong. I do think one of those guys is going to be really good. And it's probably going to be Deontay Johnson. I was trying to hopefully just push it because I wanted to see it happen. But Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore just missing out. CD Lamb right there as well. So, and then tight end. Nothing really crazy. Gronk's still tight end 1 by a points per game basis, but he's only played 3 games. So obviously, you have to take that into account. Kelsey,
Mhm.
Andrews, Dalton Schultz, my man,
Yep.
Waller, Dawson Knox, your guy, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts, and Mike Gesicki rounding out the top 10. So that's all. Then Hunter Henry, George Kittle, who's on IR, those guys have averaged more than 10 points a game. So again, it gets pretty ugly at tight end after the first few. But
Yeah.
if you have one of those top guys, you're really happy. Outside of Gronk, you're just hoping he comes back soon enough. Anything with
Sure.
what I said that you want to that's interesting? Obviously, I mentioned Kirk Cousins, big Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins
makes me
guy.
happy to. Yeah, I we talked about. I just think there's too many weapons on that offense, and I think that offense just plays too well for him to. I'm. It's still nice. It's nice to be vindicated a little bit, having him pop up there. So, yeah, definitely some interesting names we weren't predicting the beginning of the year up there, but um, yeah, nice to see. Especially, it's still crazy to me the fall off at tight end. Like there, that position just falls off so hard once you get down there.
Yeah, and
So
it's not even like George Kittle because well, he wasn't even great before he went down, but he wasn't
no,
even
he
one of
wasn't
those
playing
top
well.
guys. And Kyle Pitts hasn't been great. We'll see with the Falcons' offense looking to be like it's now finally coming alive.
Picking it up a little bit.
Hopefully outside when they come off this bye, which again we'll talk about that game soon enough. But we're going to talk about the Thursday night game first. That makes logical sense, and we have the Denver Broncos versus the Cleveland Browns, 2 3-3 teams. 2 teams that could. I know Cleveland's going through a lot of
Oh yeah.
injuries, obviously losing Hunt. But I feel like if you had to, I think a lot of people would still say Cleveland's a playoff team. Most people do not think Denver is a playoff team, though their records are both 3-3. So looking at Denver, Teddy with a not a great day by QBR standards, but with the 3 picks, but he had 3 touchdowns. Great fantasy day
Yeah.
for throwing 3 picks. Quarterback 11, he threw for 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. So also had 9 yards rushing, which is almost a point. Nothing to sneeze at there. The Javante Williams, Melvin Gordon stuff still is frustrating because we still don't.
Yeah.
It's like one of them will probably be solid one week, but they both are. It's basically a complete. It is actually completely a timeshare. This week it was basically 50-50.
You're full on guessing at this point on
And
which
then
one.
Noah Fant being tight end 1. He's been great.
He's been a
A
stud.
few weeks he hasn't, but that's what you get with tight ends. Yeah, he's been amazing. And then I really want to mention a couple guys here, but mostly we'll probably talk more about Tim Patrick later in the week because I think he's kind of an interesting ad that nobody's talking about. Cortland Sutton, though, has been crazy good the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And he had 14 targets in this game. If Jerry Jeudy doesn't suit up, and even if he does, I mean, he's obviously Sutton's still going to be quite involved in the offense.
Mhm.
I feel like Cortland Sutton now with these last couple weeks is kind of a must start. There's a if you have somebody like Tyler Lockett on your team and you also have Cortland Sutton, I don't see how you would play Lockett over Sutton right now, even though that has been the case probably for the last. Even though Lockett has been great now, you obviously are probably not too optimistic about Lockett.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really high on Sutton. He's currently at wide receiver 20, a guy that I think has realistic potential to finish as a maybe not now, but rest of the season be a top 10 wide receiver, depending on what happens with Jeudy in this offense. So I'm really high on him. I like his talent. What do you think about any of the
Yeah.
Broncos? If you want to talk about
Yeah.
Sutton or
So on Sutton, I really like him this week for sure. I think even if Judy plays this week, I don't know how effective he's going to be because when you're a game time decision on a Thursday, that's a whole different thing than a game time decision on a Sunday. Like it almost seems like if they played on Sunday, it'd be a no brainer. So he might not be at 100%. I'm a little less optimistic once Judy gets in there and starts playing at his normal level. I don't know that Sutton's gonna be that high, but I mean Sutton's still gonna have value. He's probably still gonna be he could end up being a lower number 2 guy even with Judy there. But this week for sure, I think even if Judy plays, I think Sutton's a no-brainer.
yeah, he's been really good. I don't expect this game though to be high scoring. I think
No.
this feels like a 2017, 23-7. It feels like a low scoring game to me. Cleveland's gonna, they're obviously they would need to win this game. They have playoff aspirations and beyond that. I'm sure Denver still thinks that as well, though
Yeah.
not many people are too
I
high
will
on
say,
that.
like, if Judy plays, are you hesitant to start him in his first week back on a Thursday
Yeah,
night game?
I would say
Okay.
so because I think there's a good chance that he will be limited.
Yeah, I
Even
just think
if
he's
even if he is, they say he's full on healthy. I still think they probably are just gonna, maybe play it a little. I mean, we'll see. This game is really important. So if they say he's healthy going in, they're like, you know what, like he practiced well on Wednesday and Thursday, and he's ready to go. They feel like this game. They feel like they can win this game. The line is only Cleveland 3.5. Like this game is not going to be a blowout. Cleveland is beat up. So Baker's beat up. They're missing their 2 running backs. So I
no,
see that. I think Denver has a chance to win this game. So
for
I
sure.
do think,
I just think I'm willing to miss
yeah.
that first week on
And I
Judy.
don't think you need to rush. There's a good chance, you've sat him on if you have a spot, an IR spot. He's been sitting there. If he comes back, obviously I'm okay with sitting on the bench, and I hope he has a great day because I'm going to feel great next week about playing him. But I
Yeah.
would probably sit him this week. Probably quite a lot of wide receivers I would play over him
No.
on a Thursday.
And you talked about Fant having a couple bad weeks. He still must shove in there
And he had a
guy.
great day this week. So
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this. Pretty much every tight end is touchdown dependent, which is kind of where he is. But
but he's
he's
less
been
so.
getting
Yeah, he's
he's been
less.
getting in the end zone a lot of like most weeks though too.
And I
So
mean, he had 11 targets, 9 for 97. I
yeah,
think there was only
that's
I think he was top 10 in receiving yards. There was not a lot of amazing wide receiver performances this week. I think there was,
No.
I want to say there was like 5 wide receivers that went over 100 yards, maybe 4. I know one of the tight ends went. So it's like, yeah, he was right up there with any receiver when it comes to yards. So if you're getting 100 yards out of your tight end,
I'll take it.
and he also got in the end zone, which made him tight end 1.
Yeah. All right. The other side of the ball, we kind of touched on a little bit. I mean, one of the most banged up teams out there right now. Mayfield looks like he's just going to fight through it, but he's definitely not playing at 100%. Chubb is kind of up in the air. Hunt's out for a handful of weeks. We kind of touched on. We definitely touched on the running back situation yesterday in the injury episode, but there is even we talked about this a lot. Even with if Chubb is back, he's not going to be taking 80% of the snaps.
I think he's already been ruled out actually. As the
Oh,
time
did
of
they officially rule
recording.
him out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it will be Dearness Johnson. So Dearness Johnson and Demetric Felton looks like the guys at least going in. So desperation plays there, perhaps. Dearness Johnson, we talked about him in the waiver episode on Tuesday. Check that out. But if you're interested in that, there's a good chance he's not owned. If you really need you're like I need somebody that's going to see the field. He should at least see half the snaps.
And with 6 teams on a bye, there's not a ton of running backs out, but I mean you could be in that spot. Odell is, I mean, had a nice week. He ended up at 24, like not kind of right where you drafted him, but talent wise, we've never really questioned his talent, but he looked pretty good this week.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really done much for a while, so I feel like it's. I don't know how much upside he's had, but I was fairly happy with how he looked. So I feel like if you need a wide receiver this week and you have Odell, I think there's a shot that you're playing him. I haven't felt good about him all year, but I think now after I thought he looked solid, 5 for 79 on 8 targets.
No.
It's not a fantasy friendly offense when it comes to receivers. So even if Jarvis was back or like none of these guys are going to be, it's just not the offense. Baker's not going to be a top 15 quarterback in fantasy. It's just not the way the offense works.
Yeah. And at least in my opinion, Peoples-Jones, he had 2 touchdowns, had a really nice day, but it was 4 catches, just 2 of them happened to be in the end zone. Was almost a top 30 guy last week too, so maybe a guy to keep your eye on, but still not anybody I'm worried about.
Yeah, I'm going to say Dearness Johnson is probably around flex territory, like running back 30-ish. I think like the Rhomandre Stevenson out of New England, we'll probably talk about a little bit. Jamal Williams, he hasn't been great for Detroit. He's kind of in that territory. So like depending on where you're at, I think there's a shot that you might be playing him. That's kind of the territory I put him in.
Yeah, awesome. All right, now we hit Sunday. We got Chiefs Titans as the first game. Chiefs are, I mean, we keep talking about them, but you kind of know what you're getting with the Chiefs. You're starting Mahomes. You're probably starting Darrell Williams. He had 2 touchdowns. It's very helped. He only had 62 yards on 21 carries, but you like the 21 carries for sure. So until Edwards-Hilaire's back, you're starting Williams, and then you're starting Hill and Kelsey. There's not a whole lot of analysis to do on Kansas City.
Yeah, the only thing I'll point out is if you're like, yeah, he only averaged 3 yards a carry, Darrell Williams. The one thing is, obviously, he's in Kansas City. They're going to score. So he has a shot to get in the end zone, which he did here, but also twice. He also saw 72% of the snaps. I was actually thinking that McKinnon would take a little bit more than that. 72%. He saw 59 snaps. So that's 59 of the 82. So that to me is a good sign if you're a Darrell Williams owner. I think there's a good shot. You probably are playing him if you picked him up in waivers and have him now. I would say I feel pretty good about him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire wasn't too high on him, but obviously you don't have anything invested in Darrell Williams, so I like him at where you would have got him, which would have been on the waiver wire.
Yeah, which would have been last week. On the other side of the ball, I mean, it's Derrick Henry with the Titans, and after that, I mean, it's so hard with AJ Brown because you know how good he can be. He just hasn't been that. Like I can't put him in my lineup. He ended up at 20 last week, which is nice, but that was the first week that he's been worth anything.
Yeah, I will go ahead and say this. One, Derrick Henry's really good. I've just got this expert analysis that I feel like if you
Really
have
hard hitting on that one.
Derrick Henry on your team, you really probably should not put him on your bench. But outside of that, I will say this: AJ Brown. I think at like halftime he had nothing. Like I'm like, oh man, like he hasn't done anything. It might not have been quite halftime, but he did nothing. And then he went 7 for 91. You like to see that, a good,
Yeah.
nice half on 9 targets. So I'm a little bit more bullish on AJ Brown. I think we started seeing something now. I think we're gonna. This is the turn now. We're gonna start seeing those. I know you drafted him at 8. I'm not saying he's wide receiver 8 rest of the season, but if I had to bet, I think rest of the season, I think he's probably gonna finish as a top 20 starting now. Top 20.
Yeah. I'm gonna need to see another game out of him. I just am. Um, and I have him, so this is coming from an actual position. I'm gonna have to see another game from him before he starts for me. Um, which honestly, with bye weeks coming up, I'm hoping he finally figures it out because I've been able to kind of do okay without him. But yeah, going forward, I'd love to see him pick it up. I need to see another week from him. Next we got Washington Green Bay. I mean, Gibson, you're starting still. No, wait. Yes.
If Gibson
Sorry.
plays, yeah.
If he plays, yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, is he for sure? He was up in the air. But McKissick came in and looked pretty good. He did a lot of his work in the air, which we've talked about before. But if Gibson's out, I mean, McKissick's ready to go and a guy that I think you're gonna be pretty happy to throw in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think McKissick is a great play. I think he's even a pretty solid play if Gibson does play. You see, he's banged up. McKissick got 60% of the snaps, 61% to be exact. So if Gibson doesn't play, I love McKissick in this spot. And we talked about Jarrett Patterson. He would probably be in there as well. So if you need a desperation, if Gibson doesn't play. I wouldn't even say desperation. If you need somebody in a deeper league or even in a 12-team league, if you just have no running backs, he's going to see the field if Gibson doesn't suit up. But it sounds like he will. He's banged up. He's going to try to ride through it, I think. So, but McKissick, yeah. If he's banged up and they're just kind of using him in this way, if they decide to use him in this like 50-50 split, I love McKissick in this spot.
Oh.
Receiving back had 8 catches plus this offense, like. I think Ricky Seals-Jones we've talked about. I really like him as I think he's the best tight end that you can pick up if he's available. So until Logan Thomas comes back, and the way the offense were, I know this wasn't a good day by Heineke, but it was a very good day by McKissick. Without even getting the end zone, he was running back 12. So that's the upside. Not even the upside. He has the upside to be much higher because he didn't have a touchdown. So
yeah,
he had a really good day and 8 carries for 45 yards. So like a nice average there as well. So. And his long was 11, so it wasn't like one carry, that carried him to 45 yards.
he didn't have one.
So I'm feeling pretty good on J.D. McKissick. Not again, he's probably flex consideration. He's not.
If Gibson plays, I think that's where he is. Yeah. You touched on him real quick, but I know you're super high on Seals-Jones going forward, and honestly, since it's been his job. He's played very well.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, if Thomas is out, obviously once Thomas comes back, you drop him. Like there's no relevancy to the second tight end. But as long as Thomas is out, Ricky Seals-Jones is the best tight end you can probably get on the waiver wire. So definitely like him.
All right. Other side of the ball, we got the Packers. Apparently, Rogers watches our videos and saw us call him not in the top 10. Number 6 last week, had a nice game. I mean, he's just been objectively kind of right. He'll have this, and then last time he did this, he was 15 the week after that.
And it's not. So. But here's the thing, though. Like, I mean, this is the thing with their offense is he threw it 23 times. He was good, but he had a rushing touchdown. That's gonna he had 8 points by rushing, which is not normal. So he ended up being at quarterback 6, but I just think the offense, especially with AJ Dillon coming alive now. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, this offense runs through them. So it's not a slight on Aaron Rodgers. I still think he might be the very best quarterback in the NFL, but it's just not the best fantasy offense for a quarterback. And besides wide receiver, it's not really, besides Devontae Adams, there's no one else really there either. So Yeah, Aaron Jones. Love me some Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon. This has to be owned.
Oh, for sure.
100%. He is the 100% handcuff to Aaron Jones, and even a flex play if Aaron Jones does play. We're seeing a lot of AJ Dillon. So, and Aaron Jones is still great. That's the thing. Like you don't. I mean, it's kind of like the Hunt Chubb thing. He's still
Yeah.
amazing. So don't like. I know you might want him to get more than 13 carries, and I understand that, but he's still been great. He's about where you drafted him, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have two running backs as long as you're still getting those touchdowns with Aaron Jones have been doing. To have somebody kind of take a little bit of pressure off of not everybody's Derrick Henry. So
Yeah.
no, that's not a
Exactly.
slight to no other running back is like Derrick Henry. It's nice to have another guy that you can count on. And yeah, I don't think Aaron Rodgers. I still don't think he's a top 10 quarterback rest of the way. This did not
No,
change my
I don't
mind at
either.
all.
I wish he wouldn't have done it the week after we made a video about him not being a top 10.
You done on
Um,
Robert Tanyan?
I've officially dropped him. I
Yeah,
officially gave
he
up.
actually got out snapped this game by Mercedes Lewis. So
Yep.
there's no reason you should own
Listen,
Tanyan
I was
or Mercedes
right
Lewis.
on some preseason calls, and I was wrong on some preseason calls, and this is
Uh,
the wrong one.
and speaking of being right, well, before that, the Packers are heavily favored, 9.5 points. I'm expecting Green Bay to take care of business against Washington. I don't think
Yeah.
I think most people. But speaking of being right, we're going right into
I'm gonna say you ruined my transition.
I
I
did.
actually got that one ready to go, and you just ruined it.
You did. You set it up, and I just wouldn't allow it to happen. The Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore 6-point favorites at home as of now. I kind of as much as I like Cincinnati, I feel like Baltimore right now is the best team in the NFL. They're just playing so well. But let's talk about the Cincinnati side of the ball. Joe Burrow, solid,
Yeah,
looking good.
solid.
He's been the last few weeks actually. Besides the first couple weeks, the last 4 weeks, you've been really happy with him. If you're playing him in a 12-team league,
Deep
you're pretty
league.
solid, or a deep league for sure. You're
Yeah.
happy. He's been solid all around. Joe Mixon, man,
Stud.
he is an absolute stud. And I saw the block with Jamar Chase downfield to get him that
Yep.
receiving touchdown. So props to Chase there. I know Jamar Chase definitely watched this show. So yeah,
He
Joe,
should at this point.
yeah, I know. But yeah, Joe Mixon, great, and Chris Evans also had a solid day because of his work in the air, 3 for 49 and a touchdown. So Chris Evans, another interesting name. If Mixon misses time, he's been banged up a lot. So somebody that in deep leagues should definitely be owned, and not really consideration beyond that. But Chris Evans is somebody that would he would take over the role of Joe Mixon. He actually got 4 carries in this game, so I'm pretty confident that he would be the guy if Mixon did have to sit. But he didn't have to sit this game. He looked great.
He did not. Yeah, he looked awesome. Wide receiver wise, I mean, I don't know how many times I can talk about him, but Jamar Chase, not his like top end day. He only had 4 catches, but it was for 100 yards. He did have a 53-yarder, so that helps.
But he has it every week. That's the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't, it's a 53-yarder. It's like you can't repeat.
But
this.
yeah, every
He's
week there's
repeated
one of
it
those.
every week now, basically.
The only difference is this week it didn't end in the end zone. Like every other week, that ends in the end zone. So, like you said, threw a nice block. I know it doesn't help us in fantasy, but it's nice to see him getting involved and doing what he needs to do down the field. Still sitting there at wide receiver number 7, a guy that if you drafted this year, you're just ecstatic. And we talked about this in our top 10 wide receivers. A guy I don't think he's going anywhere, and I don't think he's going anywhere for a very long time in the NFL. But a guy we're actually going to do one of our shorter episodes later this week on T. Higgins. Not a fantastic game, honestly. Like just the receiving touchdowns went to not the guys you want them to go to, and but if he had like fallen in the end zone, a day you can live with. So I think we can both agree that probably better things ahead for T. Higgins.
Yeah, for sure. When I'm looking at the snap counts here, he was on 57%, which isn't a lot, considering he was on 70% in week 5, and he was more than that in the first couple weeks before he was out. But Auden Tate had 33% of the snaps, and I feel like with that, I feel like as Higgins gets back into the swing of things and game flow, I think Higgins will take away those Auden Tate snaps. So
Yeah.
I think he'll get back up to the 90%, 80-90%.
Yeah.
So it was 6 targets with only seeing 57% of snaps. Yeah, I mean we'll talk more about that later on in the week, but yeah, super high on the Bengals offense. Nice to see Burrow. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Burrow's fantastic. So
Yeah, we touched on it yesterday in the waiver one, but Uzama, which I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, um, is a decent streaming option if you're just looking for a 1 week plug-in when your guy's out.
yeah,
On the other side of the ball, Baltimore, their quarterback's decent. He's okay at fantasy football. Um, I mean, he didn't have a great week 6, but he's been kind of a stud all year, and like his upside, like he's got the most upside of any quarterback in the NFL fantasy, I think.
yeah. I mean,
And
it's probably right there with I think Josh Allen, but just because
I just think those 6 point touchdown rushes are
I
such a
know, but
big
Josh
deal.
Allen gets so many of those too. And
Yeah,
Kyler, they're all amazing. Let's be honest.
yeah,
But yeah, he has upside to win you a week. He can put up 40 points.
yeah,
So yeah, we talked about the running backs in the waiver wire with
yeah.
Freeman and
It's a mess.
Murray and Bell and all that. So you can check that video out if you want to hear our takes. But honestly, I'm gonna be frank with you. Really, really tough to know especially
What's
if
gonna
Murray
happen?
misses time. What with Freeman and Bell, we're just kind of saying Freeman looked better. So
Yeah,
okay,
that's it. That's really an eye test thing. It's not. I have nothing to back that up. It's just an eye test.
yeah,
Hollywood will be fine. He had a bad week. He'll be fine. And then Andrews continues to be one of the most dominant tight ends in the league.
yeah.
So
I think he's currently tight end 3, and I think and I think he's probably tight end 2 rest of season. I'm trying to think, maybe 3. Like after Kelsey, he's just been so good these last few
yeah,
weeks, even all season besides week 1. I'm like, would you rather have him than Darren Waller or obviously Kittle's out? Hawkinson. I'm looking at the guy's Gronk, but he's been injured, so you can't really take Gronk over him. He's
I think he is number 2. And I wasn't very. And I was like, yeah, he's a starting tight end in fantasy, but I wasn't as crazy as a lot of people were about him. But yeah, he's proven. I think he's clear cut number 2 right now
Yeah,
with
he's been
Kittle.
in the last, yeah, and he probably won your week if you had him in week 5. So he was absolutely sensational. I think he had like 40 some points. It was crazy. So yeah, he's great. Bateman, it was nice to see him out there. Had 6 targets as well. Some name that, especially in deeper leagues, should be added or already owned probably. Should be so. Bateman is an interesting name, especially because if you get past Hollywood Brown, you start in Andrews, you don't really see a whole lot of. You got like Duvernay, and like there's not a whole lot beyond them. So I really like Lamar. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I think he's impossible to defend if he's on. You just can't do anything. So Bateman
Well,
is an interesting name. I think could have some really solid weeks ahead.
yep. All right, we got Panthers Giants next. Panthers side of the ball, kind of the same stuff. We've been talking all year. Darnold is kind of 2 weeks in a row where, at least for what we've been seeing from him, underperformed a little bit, but still vastly overperformed. In week 6 where you drafted him, so I'm still not too worried about him. I still think he's kind of right there in the a top 15 quarterback, and he did end up at 15, so I think it's kind of where he belongs. Chuba had almost a top 20 day, which you like to see. Moore was a little underwhelming from what we've kind of gotten used to from him. Other than that, it's kind of uh, you got anything exciting to talk about the Panthers?
Yeah, it
I
was
don't
nice
really
to
have
see
much.
Hubbard back to back, really solid weeks,
Yeah,
getting the end zone here. So yeah, Hubbard, if you were able to get him or already owned him, if you had McCaffrey, you might have owned him before, but if you got him, you're pretty happy with that. Obviously, if you had McCaffrey, you would rather him be out there because
yeah,
Hubbard is just not involved in the passing game too much. I mean, he had 3 targets. Like it's not McCaffrey, obviously, and just they're not even using him really that way at all. Not saying anybody can be used that way because he's a one of a kind player. But yeah, Hubbard obviously you're starting. DJ Moore didn't get in the end zone, but still 13 targets. Like Sam Darnold is trying to throw it to him.
yeah. Well,
Not
and
his
Sam Darnold had a very poor day throwing,
not a great day. He
percentage
still
wise.
salvaged it because he had 50 yards almost rushing, and that's one of the things with
Yeah,
Darnold getting that almost 5 points there. That helps, and that's why he was quarterback 15, even though he wasn't great passing the ball. He did throw it 41 times in this game. So fantasy wise, you like that. but unfortunately, only 17 of them were completed, only 200 yards passing. So, like DJ Moore did about as much as he could with what he had, and I still think he's incredible. And obviously,
Yeah.
if you drafted DJ Moore at his ADP of 22, you are still thrilled to have him on your team, even with the last couple weeks.
Yep, absolutely. Giants, Daniel Jones, kind of in that. Unless you're in a deep league, you're not probably going near him. Um, he had like that great week in week 2 and week 4, and we kind of wondered, but I think he's just going to kind of be all over the place, and a guy you don't necessarily want to hitch your wagon to. Um, Booker looks pretty good in his first like full time. I'm the guy game. 23. I think you'll take that when you're. I'm guessing you just picked him up before last week, so.
Yeah, I mean he was fine. The nice thing with him is he had the 4 catches. That always helps. He had
Yeah.
6.8 points just in the receiving game, so that really helps whenever you're if you're on the field and getting that kind of love. He also saw 72% of the snaps, which is not it's down from last week, but yeah, that's still good. If you're getting 70 to 80% of the snaps, and he's kind of involved in the passing game, I mean there's a decent shot, especially with bye weeks. Somebody you picked up on the waiver wire and is a running back, starting running back, until Saquon comes back, which could be a few weeks. So yeah, I think he's fine. He's obviously no Saquon, but that's why he's the backup. He's not. He's
Yeah.
not. There's a reason why Saquon is Saquon.
There's only a small handful of guys that are in the same category as Saquon. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
just the injuries have been piling up. But yeah,
yeah, for
I do
sure.
want to mention again. I talked about this in the waiver just because we were talking about all this. But Sterling Shepard, 14 targets, finished as wide receiver 17 without a touchdown, caught 10 of those, only 76 yards, but still that's great for a point per reception league. Currently wide receiver 18. He was I think Diggs passed him. He was 17, but he's wide receiver 18 when he sees the field. I know he missed a couple weeks, but I mean,
Yeah.
you drafted him he was drafted at wide receiver 60.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who I think if you are especially with buys, I don't see how you don't play him. Like he's
Yeah, I think he's in that spot where with buys he's going to be starting
he's
for you.
getting a third of the targets that Daniel Jones throws. So and maybe not quite that, but close. So he's looking for him. So especially with all the injuries they've had, I'm really high on Sterling Shepard.
Yeah. And the rest of the wide receivers just kind of a mess. You don't really know who's playing and
We'll
who's
see
yeah.
with Kenny Galladay if he's
Yeah.
back, and I like Kenny Galladay's talent, but it's just not been working so far.
Yeah. And then the tight end is irrelevant. Um Next up, Falcons. Falcons Dolphins. This is a game where I actually we talked about it yesterday, kind of some streaming options. Um I think I know we both kind of agree that Tua is a streaming option. I also think that Matt Ryan could be a decent streaming option if you just need a plug-in QB for this week. I think he could have a decent week. And honestly, he's been a little bit better than I thought he'd been all year. He's at 18, but that is hurt big time by week 1 being number 31.
Even the first 3 weeks, really, he's been great.
No.
This offense is getting up. It's going now. Pitts has been much better. Obviously, they came off of a bye. We'll see how they come out of this bye. They at Miami. They're actually favored in this game. This kind of has the feel to me. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I feel like I honestly think Tua and Matt Ryan are both going to have really good games.
Yeah, I
I
don't think there's
think
going to be a lot of defense.
I wouldn't be shocked if Pitts has another great day. And yeah, I'm really excited for this game just for the points. I think this has a really good chance to, I see the over under is at 47.5. I think this could easily be a 30-24 game or something. I think that could definitely happen. So yeah, Patterson has been what in the world is up with that? He's been incredible.
Love it.
So all your guys that you would play, Mike Davis, I should mention. He's Mr. Consistent. If you need a
Yeah.
consistent running back, he is that. He is about as consistent as mid-20s running back as you can find. So
Yeah.
if you need a mid-20s running back, Mike Davis is your guy.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping Ridley, like you said, I think it could be a high scoring game, and I'm hoping this is the game maybe Ridley is the Ridley you drafted. Would be nice to have a week, because even though like he just hasn't had that week. Like his best week is 16 number 16 in week 2, and that's obviously not what you drafted him for. And I hope Pitts has another great week because I was pretty high on him, and I also selfishly own him, so I want him to do well because I like money. And so on the other side, we've touched on Tua. We think he's a decent. He's not a guy we're suggesting go out and start for the rest of the season, but I think this week could be a decent stream for you. Gaskin didn't have a great day, but has the talent to be awesome, as week 5 showed, and probably a guy you're still putting in your lineup every week, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it was like this is the frustrating thing when you see the snap count: 36% for Gaskin, 36% for Malcolm Brown, 27% for Ahmad. So Ahmed, hope I'm saying that. So you have a complete third basically for everybody, but he did have a lot more snaps in week 5. Obviously, that's when he went off. Yeah, that's just frustrating. I think you still got to play him, even though that was a weird game. Obviously, they ended up losing. Tua threw it 47 times. I'm confident Miami does not want Tua throwing it 47 times. Now, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Could he throw it, 40-plus times again? Maybe. I still don't think he's going to throw it that much. But, one thing also is Jalen Waddle had 10 catches on 13 targets. So, really nice to see he's outperforming his ADP quite a lot thanks to this past week, which was
those
very
2 touchdowns help.
Good week. 10 for 70 is good. That gets you wide receiver 17. I think that's about what Shepard had.
Then,
but 2 touchdowns gets you at wide receiver 4. So
heck yeah, 12 points to that.
But that's the difference there. Obviously, Gesicki, like you're playing him at tight end. You drafted him. You're playing him if you drafted him. So he's actually been really good the last 4 weeks. Week 5 wasn't great, but besides that, week 3 tight end 2, week 4 tight end 5, week 6 tight end 2. So he's been really
I'll take
good.
1 week mixed in there of 16 if you're going to give me the rest of them. Right there. All right. Next up, Jets, Patriots.
Can I mention real quick, Mac Hollins, 97% of the snaps for the Dolphins, deep league, but he's on the field every snap. So Mac Hollins, 4 for 61. He was literally on the field every play, basically. So I think he missed 2 snaps.
So not every play. So what you just said.
I should not have used the word literally. That was a mistake. But basically, every play he was on the field. It could have been.
I don't like being that guy, but if I said that, you absolutely would have pointed it out.
Definitely would have. So once I said literally, I'm like, I can't go back. But yeah. So just a name again, a deep league. Like he's on the field all the time. So
I'm just gonna throw this out there. Is there a Jet you care about?
I mean,
like Corey Davis is borderline. You'd rather not.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the one. Michael Carter at running back is another flex play. He's a starting running back, so
I know,
another flex play. I mean, there's a chance you have 6 teams on bye that you would have
That's
to play.
That's true. 6
Michael
teams
Carter.
on bye. I'll give you that.
I think he's in that. Even J.D. McKissick, Jamal Williams, like those.
You know what I think my problem is? I can't remember the last time I started a running back at flex. Like I draft so wide receiver heavy.
Yeah, and I think there's a good chance this is, but like a lot of times when I say even flex, I'm thinking like running back 30-ish, 25.
Yeah,
30.
no, I get what you're saying.
So that kind of isn't. You might not have a better option at running back. At running back 2, your guys could be on bye, and it could be Michael Carter. You might be trying to make a decision between him and some. I don't know. I was going to say some scrub, but that's really, they're in the NFL, so they're all good. Yeah. But yeah, you might be trying to make that decision between him and J.D. McKissick or Jamal Williams. And you may come to the conclusion that Michael Carter is the best for you.
Yeah. And if you're in that kind of situation, you just have to kind of decide. I feel like Carter's going to give you that probably low 20 performance. You kind of just need to decide if...
And he's been really solid the last few weeks.
If you want the solid or if you want the upside. Because I feel like if you want the upside, you're going to go with one of those other guys.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If you just want the solid, maybe you'll end up with Carter.
Yeah.
Other side of the ball, we got the Patriots. Quarterback's irrelevant. In my opinion, the wide receivers are... I mean, Myers is... You might be making that decision, but probably... It's kind of like Corey Davis. You'd rather not have to make that decision. But Harris has another nice week. Overall for the year hasn't looked crazy, but that's because White took a decent amount of carries earlier in the year. But I mean, you'll take you'll take running back 14 out of him for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to spend a few minutes here on, maybe not a few minutes, but Rhomandre Stevenson. Talked about him before, but
Yep.
we talked about him last week. Even expecting him to, he could be in this spot, and he had about the same number of snaps as he did in week 5, but 5 for 23 converted on a touchdown, and also had 3 catches for 39 yards. So
That's it.
yeah, I mean, he's somebody that I feel like, again, it's Bill Belichick. It's like, if you get on Bill Belichick's good side, you don't fumble. If it's just if he sees good, he could literally turn out to be the starting running back. Like, he could be, and
Yeah,
he could be
it's not out
getting,
of the question.
he could in week 7, he could get 15 to 20 carries. Like, we don't know. And yeah, Damon Harris did have a good day, but this could be maybe Rhamondre Stevenson. Damon Harris got 48% of the snaps. Brandon Bolden got some. Maybe those Bolden snaps and some others don't happen, and it's just a timeshare between Stevenson and Harris. And that's somebody that I feel like is I really like him. I think he's somebody that uh, should be owned in a lot of leagues. Maybe not in your team, because depends on, like, I'm looking at mine and I'm like, I don't really think I have a spot for him.
Yeah.
Depends on how deep your bench is, but I think there's a lot of teams that there's some guys at the end where you're just like, if you want to drop somebody like Kenny Galladay and pick because you need running back depth, I don't mind. I don't mind picking up somebody like Rhamondre Stevenson, because there's a good chance, like Kenny Galladay, you don't start him the rest of the season. That, like, there's a chance that you just, like, depending on your wide receivers, it's like, okay, sure, you're scared you're scared because you're like, he's owned in 70% of leagues or something, but that's because he was drafted so high and people don't like to drop him, and it's like, even though he hasn't been there and he's been injured, banged up, so, like, there's some guys where you're like, yeah, you might be helping another team that needs a wide receiver, dropping somebody like Kenny Galladay, but if he's never going to start for you, I really think the upside of Rhamondre Stevenson is quite high. I mean, so, until, I mean, I don't know how long James White is out. I just know he's on IR, so I don't know if it's a full season or not. So something to look up, but
Yeah. All right. Eagles, Raiders. I'm gonna let you, because I honestly don't know off the top of my head. So I'm just gonna move on. We'll get to it. Eagles, Raiders. Hertz has another top 5 day. Obviously, a guy you're no brainer putting in every week. Um, After that, it gets a little messy. Like, Sanders is kind of in that discussion where you might have to start him, but you don't want to. Gainwell, who we were a little concerned about taking some snaps, does not appear to be the case. I know I dropped him on a couple teams where I picked him up just in case. And I'm kind of done with that experiment. It's weird because yeah, it helps because Hertz has the rushing stats to back him up. But for a quarterback that's been playing this well, there's not a receiver that's
yeah, I mean, he had 12 completions for
yeah
115 yards. It's tough for any wide receiver to do much with that and one
yeah.
touchdown. Even if they all went to a receiver, he's still not one.
It's still an okay day.
He's
Yeah.
still not wide receiver 1. That's the thing. He might have been this week, actually. I don't think there was a crazy performance. If they all 12 for 115, that's 23 and a half, 29 and a half. That might have been enough for wide receiver 1, but that's usually not even enough for the number 1 wide receiver. So there's just not enough there. We did see Zach Ertz get traded as well to the Arizona Cardinals, so
Yeah.
he could be kind of interesting depending on how he fits. I respect these trades. A lot of time it takes a while for them to get it acclimated to the team, and I don't really know how that's going to work, but Max Williams was actually looking kind of solid in the offense, so Zach Ertz, I think most people would say, is a better receiving option, so we'll see how that works in Arizona. But yeah, I don't know. None of the wide receivers, you're not starting any of them. A lot of people drafted, a lot of people, because he was drafted in every league, Devontae Smith, but I mean,
You can't at this point.
I mean, he's still probably got to be owned, I guess, but like,
Well, no, I'm not saying drop it, but I don't know.
yeah,
Like,
I
in a
mean,
pinch, yes.
he
But
did have week 4 and week 5. He had some solid weeks. It's not like he's been really bad. I'm just like, Hurst is just not. I mean, he's such a good fantasy quarterback. That's just the value of the rushing. I mean, that's the thing.
yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the wide receivers have value. And yeah, Miles Sanders, you said it, 9 for 56. He was the guy. Kenneth Gainwell. I don't have a problem if you drop him.
Oh, I did, yeah.
I think there's a, depending on, he's probably got as much chances, and if something, obviously, if Miles Sanders, something happened, obviously Gainwell would be the guy to own, but Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, you see, he only gets 23% of snaps. He had 24% in week 5. When bye weeks come around, you got to make these decisions, and he might be a guy that has to be dropped.
Yeah. I dropped him to pick up like a tight end to fill in.
And that does happen. James White is out for the whole season. I thought he was, and I'm like, I don't want to say that, but yeah, James White is out for the season.
Okay. So yeah. All right. Other side, we got the Raiders. I almost just instinctually said an irrelevant quarterback, but that's not true. So I'm not going to say that. Even though I feel that way, because he is at 15. So if you're in a deeper league or or like a 2 quarterback league, a decent option. He had a top 10 day, so I'll give him his due on that one. But still a guy that in a normal league you don't want any part of. I don't think. You would have liked to see a little bit more out of Josh Jacobs last week, and honestly, since he's kind of come back. I know this is kind of where he was drafted, but I just feel like there was such an opportunity there for him to kind of take the reins and have good weeks.
Yeah, I mean that's a Kenyon Drake factor as well. But yeah, I think
Drake
Josh
got in the
Jacobs,
end zone twice.
which helps his. Obviously, he had a really nice day. Another guy who he only saw if I have this right, 21% of snaps. He's only on the field 12 times and he had 2 touchdowns. So we'll see if that goes up with Drake. But obviously, I don't see how. After a lot of people are going to be tempted to start Kenyon Drake after this week. I just don't see if he's on the field. I'm assuming that could go up, obviously, but he had 12 snaps back-to-back weeks. Like it's kind of fluky, though. That he did have a couple nice touchdowns. So both of his touchdowns, I think, especially his receiving touchdown, was really nice. Really nice.
The thing is, he had 6 total touches. Just 2 of them happened to get in the end zone.
But yeah, Josh Jacobs, where you drafted him, like it is frustrating seeing that happen. But like he is where you drafted him. But yeah, it seems like I agree. It seems like he has that like top 10, top 12.
He should be better.
But like, you drafted him at 18, and that's about where he is. So he's fine. Henry Ruggs, 3 for 97 and a touchdown. Really solid day. But yeah, 4 targets. He's been okay. Renfro, not great. And really nobody else. And for Carr throwing for 340 yards, I was hoping for a little bit better days from these guys. But nobody crazy besides Ruggs, but a lot of that. I mean, a lot of big plays there, which is what he gives you. I mean, he's a big play guy, so you can't just disregard that.
But he has the chance for these, but he also has the chance to do what he did in 4 and 5 and be in the 50s.
He's a guy that has huge upside, but he could definitely do not much. So he's a risky play, but a guy that you might want to roll out there if you needed something big play. If you need a big performer, I mean, he's got potential to, get 20 points for you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Lions Rams.
Yes. My favorite.
You know what? I'm gonna let you lead this one.
Okay.
You got a guy you hate, a guy you love.
Okay. It's funny because they were traded for each other, right? So this is a interesting game. Lions v Rams. So I just met Campbell. I'm forgetting his name, but the coach for the Detroit Lions said about Jared Goff, like he's got to be better. He's got to step up. What?
Is it
Dan Campbell? Yeah. Okay. So he's like he's got to step up.
You should remember that.
I should remember that because I hate the. I'm not gonna lie.
Your name. You know your name is Dan, right?
Oh, okay.
You're aware of that.
Nobody ever calls me Dan, so like I don't even think that is my name. But anyways, yeah. So he kind of threw him under the bus, which I can't like as much as I hate on Jared Goff. You just can't say anything like that. I don't think it's a good way to lose the locker room. But maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong there. But I just don't.
Maybe
like
everybody
that.
else hates him too.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, Jared Goff. This is not good. This was not a good game at all. It was not great. DeAndre Swift was saved at the end there. He was not having a good day. He finished as running back 15 until that touchdown, that last drive or two. Like I think it might have been the last drive. He got like all his points, so he was saved there. It's just so frustrating because you're like, this happened in week 1 when they made that crazy comeback and almost beat the 49ers or came back to make it close. Swift and Williams got all this at the end. It's like, why can you not do this the rest of the game? Like, why does this happen at the end? They get so frustrated, but. Swift, obviously, I think he's a top 10 running back, so I like him rest of the season. Not his best day, but he's involved in the pass game a lot. You like that. So outside of that, Hawkinson still is great. You like it. We drafted him. Pretty happy with
You
where
love
he's.
seeing a top 10 performance out of a tight end that doesn't involve a touchdown.
Yeah. So
Like, that's nice to see.
Jamal Williams, he's on the field 30% of the snaps. Did not have a good day, but still somebody. I know he hasn't been great the last 3 weeks, but still somebody I still think is flex territory because of the way this offense works. I do say Jared Goff. I give him a hard time a lot because I do think he's one of the bottom 5 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. But I do think because of the way this offense works, they can still move the ball. They have a lot of talent around, especially at running back. They can move the ball, and 30% of snaps for Jamal Williams, if he's in between 30 to 40, he's gonna have more than one catch for -2 yards and 4 carries for 11. This isn't normal. So a flex territory again, a guy I talked about earlier. I mentioned kind of that flex territory with your McKissicks and Michael Carter and kind of in there. So you might be playing him, even though he hasn't been great the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Rams are favored by 15 points in this game. 15. You do not see that sort of line.
That like I don't disagree with the fact that the Rams are probably going to beat them pretty decently, but to get a 15-point line in the NFL, it almost seems like they're daring you. Like they're like, "Do you have it? Come on, come on." But yeah, on the Rams side of the ball, Stafford had another great day. I know, guy, you're crazy high on. I mean, for good reason. Like he's had a great season. Henderson was number 4 overall. I have Henderson in my main league, and I've been super excited about what he's been putting up. I mean, you've got to be stoked if you're getting a top 10 performance out of a guy you drafted the number 24 running back.
Yeah, for sure.
Cup, I said it last week. He's my number 1 going the rest of the season. Helped me out with that. Was number 2 this week, and I mean, yeah, Woods is still a guy you're starting. He was outside the top 30, but Cup just did so much that I'd like those will balance a little bit. Cup could come down a little bit. I think he still ends up number 1 just because of consistency. But and Higbee's kind of on that fringe, especially with bye weeks. Could be a guy you're throwing in your lineup.
Yeah, I was like thinking, I'm like, how is he not with that day? How is Cooper Kupp not wide receiver 1? I forgot about CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb we're not going to talk about because they're on bye, but CeeDee Lamb was had 9 for 149 and a couple touchdowns. So that's why he was there. Cooper Kupp is 2.5 points ahead of Tyreek Hill, which is just crazy. I think I might have mentioned at the top, but yeah, he's been insane. Robert Woods looks good every time he touches the ball. He seems like a team player. He's always blocking. He blocks a lot, which I don't like that from a fantasy perspective. It seems like he's bought in, which it's easy to buy in when you have this explosive offense and a good team, and you're probably trying to win a Super Bowl. I just wish he was more involved in the passing game because I feel like it's gonna happen. But where you drafted him, you actually drafted him ahead of Cooper Kupp. His ADP was. He's obviously nowhere near that. But he got in the end zone. That saves his day a little bit. I was not overly disappointed. I did start him this past week after his week 5, so I felt like I'm not too disappointed because he gets in the end zone. I can't complain too much, even though it wasn't the best day. And yeah, Stafford, this was a complete blowout of the Giants. Yeah, they just destroyed them. He only passed 28 times and he was quarterback 4. So this was at will, just destroying them. They even brought in the backups at the end because it was just such a blowout. All the studs you start. Good chance you start in Woods, especially with buys. Cooper Kupp is a stud. Higbee again, decent chance you're playing him. Henderson's been amazing, and then obviously Stafford. Nothing else really. Van Jefferson, 64% of the snaps in a deeper league, is probably a good solid option as well.
Yep. All right, Bears Bucks. Honestly, it was nice to see Herbert put up a top 10 day. Kind of his first chance to be the guy. 97 yards, touchdown, 19 carries. I know you're usually the snap count guy, but I mean, all of them pretty much, like 89%. Like for a running back, that's all of them. Like you don't see that a lot, so no really disparity there. But aside from him, I feel like there's nobody. I still think I think we both agree Fields at some point is going to be a good quarterback, but I still think right now, that's all. Right now, you're starting Herbert. That's it.
Yeah, it's like Fields is like it's weird because he's a mobile quarterback and he had 6 for
The
43,
offense is
but like I feels like this is such a good matchup. Tampa's, but it feels like they're gonna just blow them out, and they are 12.5 point favorites. I don't see Fields being able to, and it's not really a knock on him. I don't think he's really been given a fair shot. I just don't see it this week. I hope I'm wrong because I want to see him put up a huge day, but I don't know. He was solid this past week. He finally had, he looked solid, not too bad. Herbert, I mean, I don't even know how you. I don't want to say you undersold it, but yeah, I think you're on. Like he was incredible.
yeah.
He looked really good.
Yeah.
He's an instant, like especially with Damon Williams missing, but like with Montgomery out, like he should be on every team. I think. Oh, well, obviously owned, but he should be in your lineup. He was
Every team
incredible.
should get him. Every
Yeah.
team in your league should get to play.
Yeah. Yeah, he was incredible. Wide receiver wise, man, I'm an Allen Robinson owner. Drafted him
Yeah,
at
me
wide
too.
receiver 11. Man,
I've got
yeah.
him in. I will say the only one I got him in was my keeper league. He just in my dynasty league.
Did have
I
7
him.
targets. He wasn't bad this week. Didn't get in the end zone. If he got in the end zone, obviously you're probably saying, okay, we got an Allen Robinson sighting, but no touchdown. So Mooney actually
Well,
got that with the 8 targets there.
yeah, and he's a guy we're gonna go a little more in depth on a future episode this week. One of the three,
Yeah,
probably
and
Friday or Saturday, and
and again, he's on the field. We'll talk about more, but he's on the field every snap. Somebody I will mention real quick. I know this is because I actually think Justin Fields. This will be the turnaround. I don't know about that, but I think he's going to keep getting better throughout the season. I actually think Cole Kmet is going to be really good the rest of the season. I actually think he's somebody that they used a lot. They drafted him very highly, so they want him to succeed. We thought Jimmy Graham would see more snaps. Not really the case. So I'm actually pretty bullish on Cole Kmet rest of the season. You don't need to own him right now, but it's just somebody that I think if you see a good week from him, I would have no problem, depending on your tight end, obviously. If you have Travis Kelce, you play Travis Kelce, but somebody that if you're in that mix where you're like wide receiver 10 to 15, you're not sure. If you see a really solid week this week, I think he's going to be really good. And a rookie quarterback, if they find a big tight end that they like, I think he could. I think he. It's something we said earlier in the season, and Fields just hasn't been good. Dalton wasn't good, obviously. So we'll see.
yeah, absolutely. All right. In the complete opposite world of like one guy you want to start, we have the Buccaneers. Brady, what is this? 12? Unacceptable. That is not why you're on our teams. You are not on our teams for number 12 quarterback. Get it together. That being said, he still had a pretty decent day. Like he'll have a day you'll take from your quarterback pretty much all the time. So, Fournette had a fantastic day. Number 2. So in one of my leagues I have Brady, Fournette, and then Evans, unfortunately, this week. But like to start out with Thursday night football with those two performances, like you just love going into the weekend with that. It's your guys. But Fournette had a great day. He's been very good all year. I mean, he's not a top 2. He's not the second best running back in football, but he's been probably a top 15-ish guy. And Evans didn't have a great day, but Antonio Brown did have a great day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I just can't believe I'm looking at current, and he missed a game. So if you just look at points, it's not the case. But if you just go points per game, wide receiver 6. That just
Yeah.
and it's 5 games. It's a pretty big sample size of the season, and he's wide receiver 6. It just doesn't make any sense. Really, only one bad week in week 2 where we thought, okay, maybe week 1 was kind of a fluke when he was wide receiver 12, and then he's like goes and does this. Man, Tom Brady, it's just. He has so many good weapons, and he's obviously very good at football. I'm not gonna tell you something you don't know. Most likely, if this is the first time you've heard it, though, he is good. But yeah, Tom Brady's very good. Not his best fantasy day, but still really good day. For a quarterback's sake, Fournette great, Brown amazing. All 3 of these wide receivers. I mean, I feel like you play them all. I mean, there's all these guys. You play. Fournette the last 3 weeks has been incredible. Obviously, this was his best week, but like he's been really good 3 straight weeks. So I think he's comfortably top 15, and he might even end up being top 12, maybe even sneak into top 10.
Yeah, he's gonna sneak his way up there. He's gonna be, I think, assuming health, gonna really do well the rest of the year. Kind of nice to see OJ Howard. I mean, not for us, not for fantasy, because I don't feel like a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure there was somebody out there that started him, but not a big starter. But OJ Howard had a really great day. He's kind of a guy that's been lingering for a while, and always nice to see him.
Yeah, he always flashes. I will say one
Yeah,
thing with Antonio Brown. When I talk about snap counts a lot, I love looking at that because I think that shows repeatable stuff. Antonio Brown does not get those snaps, but he's kind of the outlier. I think he's the guy when he's on the field. He is on the field to serve a purpose, and the purpose is for Tom Brady to find him, and he's going to catch the ball. It seems like that's how he's. They don't put him on the field every snap. It's Godwin
no,
and it's Evans. They're on the field every single play, pretty much. Antonio Brown, more situational, but when he's on the field, only 37 snaps compared to 70 for Evans, 68 for Godwin. But he obviously nine catches on 13 targets. He was targeted 13 times, and he was only on the field 37 times. So, I mean, he's an outlier. That's one where I don't think the snap count is really indicative at all of what he's going to do.
yeah.
Week
I
to
mean,
week.
here's the thing. That isn't a new development, and he's the number 6 wide receiver. So, like, it obviously there's always the outlier that kind of bucks the trend.
Yeah.
Next we've got the Juggernaut Texans. Just
You remember when I said the Lions were a 15-point underdog to the Rams?
yeah.
This one's worse.
This one probably should be worse.
1-5 Texans versus a 6-0 Arizona Cardinals.
What is this one, like
17
18?
and a half.
I'll take Arizona. Honestly, like it's Cooks. Like you're probably starting Cooks. After that, I mean, I'll let you talk about somebody else if you'd like to, but I don't know who it'd be.
They did announce, I think Cully announced that it's Tyrod's job when he gets back, so that's just something.
Well, yeah.
They did mention they said they're hoping that it's a conversation when Tyrod comes back, but it's not a conversation.
That's just them saying. That's not just them saying we hope Davis Mills starts to not suck.
Yeah, and that's what they said when Tyrod went down. But they're like, yeah, he's got the job. Obviously, Davis Mills has not been good, which is unfortunate. But he was solid in week 5. But yeah, he goes back to being not great in week 6. Brandon Cooks, you mentioned, like, I don't know how he does. He's doing what he's doing with the quarterback play, but
yeah,
he's been. I know he's had a few bad weeks, but yeah, he went back to being great again. I will say, Mark Ingram, it is important to note, again, another one of those like weird, like, I guess, flex plays. I don't feel good about this one, but because he's in a complete timeshare with David Johnson, but 18 carries. Like when he's on the field, it seems like he's going to run the ball. And he averaged 4 yards to carry, 73 yards, nice solid day there. So a couple catches as well. So not a bad day. Not somebody, when he got 10 points.
Yeah.
He has no upside though. Like this offense is not good. I would rather. I know he's going to be ranked probably around like 30 or whatever, starting running back in the NFL. This is one where I don't have any confidence in. I think I'd rather play a Michael Carter. I'd rather play even somebody like Jamal Williams or J.D. McKissick.
Yeah, I'd rather have the upside.
Even if you see them ranked, and they might be ranked, they'll put Ingram over him depending on who. I don't care. I'm like, I would rather go with the upside. There's no upside with Mark Ingram. I don't see any scenario where he scores more than like 15 points. So. He could do that if he gets a couple touchdowns, but that's about it.
Not the place you want to be with your running back, where you're solely banking on touchdowns at that point. Other side of the ball, we got the Cards. Kind of expect this one to be a little bit of a blowout. Kyler has another great day, top 3. He's a stud. Running back situation continues to be about as split as you can expect. Hopkins is still a stud, top 10 guy. Kirk had a nice day. AJ Green had another nice day. I don't know what to do with AJ Green. Like, I need him to stop having these days because I really don't believe he can continue, but he keeps doing it. And I say that. He also was terrible in week 5. But like 22, 16, 94, not great. And then 12. Like, I don't expect Green to be relevant at all, and the 3 of the 4 weeks he's been very relevant.
Yeah, I mean they definitely like him like in the passing game, and they like him. I'm assuming as a run blocker as well. He's on the field almost every snap. So you look at Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore. They have talent at wide
Yeah,
receiver. It's not like kind of like when is it gonna they gonna pass the guard a little bit? No, it's not happening. Like AJ Green
apparently
actually
not.
had the most snaps at wide receiver. He actually outsnapped Hopkins by one. I mean it's basically even. But yeah, AJ Green 5 for 79 and a touchdown on 6 targets. His touchdown, I was like, usually that's like a Hopkins spot, but I do think also like Hopkins a lot of times is probably they're expecting like safety help over the top. So there's probably a sort of gameplay. They like him as, that sort of spot where they're like, you can't obviously double everybody. And AJ
Yeah.
Green's one thing that we do know about AJ Green, even getting up in age, he hasn't shrunk. He's still very tall. And so that helps when looking at red zone targets. If you do jump balls and stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
Kyler's gonna
for sure.
try to look his way. I will say this: DeAndre Hopkins, I'm concerned. I'm actually concerned. So he's obviously wide receiver 10, but he had 2 touchdowns, 55 yards, only 4 targets. It's one of these things where like obviously Hopkins is starting, but if you can get value for him remotely close to wide receiver 4 where you drafted him, unlikely you can get that great of value, but he's a big name, so maybe. I'm okay. Like even though I'm a big Hopkins fan, I got him right over here, but I'm a big fan. It's just the offense. We see Green being involved. You see Christian Kirk being involved. They like, the rookie and Rondale Moore. They run the ball even a decent amount. James Conner. One thing with Conner, this is the first game he's actually outsnapped Chase Edmonds. I said last week that Edmonds was the guy you would want to own between the two. I actually don't even know that anymore. It seems like it's complete up in the air, and Connor does have the goal line work, which you like that
Hmm.
if you're a Connor owner. So he also rushed the ball 16 times to Edmonds 4. I know Edmonds is more on the receiving side, but still, yeah, I don't know with that situation. I think that's kind of a coin flip every week on who to
Yeah, the
play
running back's a
between the
mess.
two. But what do you think about Hopkins rest of season?
Here, you know what's weird? I'm very high on Hopkins. Like, I don't think you just look. You would expect one of us to be very high on Hopkins, and it wouldn't be me. His talent is so good. Kyler is so good. I just I just can't like. Is he going to get to 4 where you drafted him? Probably not. But I think he's a top 10 guy. Like,
Oh,
I
I
think
agree
he's
he's
there.
top 10, but I think he's I think he's
Yeah, but
borderline.
okay, I know. But
He's
if you're
like
like if you're
he's
trying to get value out of it, I don't know who you're going to get, who you're going to feel better about.
I would
And I
rather, so somebody that's also disappointed, but he's currently over. But I don't think anybody would. I think people are probably higher now on Diggs. But even before this game, I would have rather had Diggs over Hopkins, who was around the same spot, but they both disappointed.
no.
And there's maybe some other guys too. Like we talked about our wide receiver list, and I don't know if Hopkins made our top 10. He's right there, like
I
10,
believe he made
11.
mine. That tells you
Um,
like
he's
my memory is
right
like
there,
goldfish.
but there's quite a lot of guys. I mean, that's still 10 guys that I'd
Um,
rather have over him, and he was drafted at wide receiver 4. So I'm just saying
um,
if you can get one of those guys, or if you need running back help, I think there's depending on how you feel, if somebody's willing to say Hopkins for Diggs or Hopkins for one of those studs, then
no.
I would.
Yeah, I guess you can get a stud for him. I don't know. I just feel like, and maybe I'm because there's been other guys who were drafted high that I've bailed on. I'm not ready to like. I know you're not bailing, but like, I don't know. I think he's gonna do really well. I'm really interested to see what Ertz does in this offense, though. I will say that real quick. I'm interested to see what he does.
Yeah, I think yeah, for sure I'm interested as well.
I don't know what I have no clue what it's gonna be, but I think I mean Max had a few good games for sure, so the offense can support a tight end for sure. So we'll see what happens. Colts 49ers. On the
Sunday
Colts
night.
side of the ball, Sunday night. Colts side of the ball. I feel like I mean you're not starting Wentz unless you're. That's a very deep league. Taylor has another just lights out day. Um, Pittman didn't have a great day. Still a guy we've talked about him a little bit. Still a guy we think is better days ahead of him, and just not his day. Campbell Ty came back for like the shortest amount of time.
Just enough
Um,
to stab it to the Texans one more time.
just enough to be like, oh man, T.Y. Hilton's back, and then you're like, oh, T.Y. Hilton's not back. And I mean, other than that, it's pretty much you're definitely starting Taylor, and Pittman is in your consideration for what you're doing, kind of at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
back of your
I'm super
roster.
high on Pittman. I think there's a good shot you play him this week, even though he only had 3 targets. He saw the field. I'm really Wentz only had 11 completions in this game. It was a complete blowout.
Yeah.
11 of 20. He looks good. I maintain. I think this game isn't going to be a blowout. I think Wentz is going to throw for a decent amount here. It's a tough defense though, and that's why it's going to be tough maybe to play him this week. But he's been really solid. I mean, honestly,
From an NFL standpoint,
and
I think
even
he's doing his
from a
job.
fantasy, he was undrafted basically, and he's currently 20, which is well above many quarterbacks that he's drafted as quarterback 30, but last 3 weeks, 17 in week 4, quarterback 9 in week 5, quarterback 13 in week 6, solid. So had a couple touchdowns here. So I like Carson Wentz. The reason being is I probably won't play him in fantasy unless I like a bye week and it's a deeper league or maybe just a 12-team league and you got a good matchup or something. But I do think it helps the wide receiver. The fact they have a really good quarterback who's able to make that throw, that 52-yard catch by Ty. I mean, it was an absolute gorgeous throw by Carson Wentz. So if Carson Wentz has good protection, which he does, the Indianapolis Colts do have a good O line. I think he could be really, really solid rest of the season, and I'm pretty bullish on Michael Pittman rest of the season as well. Currently wide receiver 36. I would say rest of the season he probably is I would say about wide receiver 25 ish for me, maybe even
I
a
would say
little
20
higher.
to 25,
Yeah,
somewhere
maybe
in that
closer
range.
to top 20. So
Yep. All right. Other side of the ball, 49ers. And the guy we unanimously decided that was probably our number one streaming quarterback this week.
if he plays, which
If he plays.
he might not, we're kind of getting indication he
Yeah.
didn't practice on Monday that it might be Garoppolo again.
Yeah. So if he plays, somebody we really like, in Trey Lance. I I picked up Elijah Mitchell. He got dropped in one of my leagues, and
Should
that
not have been dropped.
should not have been dropped.
It's
So
funny though
was
because my wife's same thing. Like we
yeah.
picked him up, so he's on the bench, and we're like, some of these teams like don't really have great running back depth. And
Yeah.
we have a lot of depth. Like Mike Davis is not played, but he's on our bench. We have like 3 starting running backs on our bench. And like
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell, how do we?
It seems I like when I saw that because I just went to go check like, hey, who's, and I'm like, how's he here? So, but no, he's a guy. Hasn't been amazing, but a guy you're thinking about starting. Um, I think on a lot of teams he probably is. Debo, eh, we're going off week 5. They didn't play last week. Debo has been great all year. I'd love to see Kittle back on I just want Kittle back on the field. I just feel like football in general is better when you have one of the most talented tight ends out there. Not that he was super playing like it before he got. I mean, he was doing okay, but not necessarily what we expected. But you're starting Debo. There's a decent chance you're starting Mitchell, and we really like Trey Lance as a streamer if he plays. But right now, you might have to make that decision a little too early, and maybe you can't risk it with him.
Yeah,
So
for sure. So that is unfortunate. But yeah, I don't know with Trey Lance. I'm kind of nervous. It kind of seems like it's leaning towards Garoppolo, and they might stay with him for a while. I'm not sure. So that makes me nervous because I want to see what Trey Lance can do from a fantasy option. He's really exciting to watch. So I'm not sure if it's the best interest of the 49ers if they're trying to win, but I like watching it. So yeah, Debo's been incredible. 31 catches on 5 games, so he's averaging over 6 catches, over 500 yards in 5 games, 548 to be exact. So he's been really good. I think this game is going to be a really solid game. I think the Colts are going to compete with them, and we'll see who goes at quarterback. Obviously, we're recording this earlier in the week, so we don't know. Hoping for Lance, but yeah, and that's really Elijah Mitchell. I think there's a good chance here starting him. We got some clarity in week 5. He was the running back. Trey Sermon really didn't see any snaps. I think he had like 1 snap. I don't even have it up anymore, but I'm pretty sure it's like 1 snap or something. So
something like
it was
that,
hardly anything. So Elijah Mitchell's the guy. Should not be dropped. If he's not owned, you should own him.
Yeah.
I really
Don't ask me. I don't know what happened. I didn't do it.
I really like him going forward if he stays healthy and with Mostert going down earlier in the year. Yeah, I like me some Elijah Mitchell.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Monday Night Football. Another team coming off a bye. The Saints. I mean, I know Callaway had a good day in 5. We've talked about the Week 5 games. I mean, you're starting Kamara, and then I got nothing else.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
Callaway again, another guy who I'm always like, especially if Winston has like his week 5, if they let Winston sling it, like Callaway is going to be the recipient of that. So
yeah,
I like
are
Callaway.
they gonna?
I don't know. We'll see with how this Saints are a 5-point favorite, but they're also going against the Seahawks. The Seahawks that did not look good this past week. So yeah, I think Callaway is kind of interesting if you're looking for a kind of a high ceiling, or
Yeah,
he could definitely have
big
another.
upside.
He could definitely have a nice day here. We'll see how much they let him sling it, but I don't know if they really need to. I don't think Seattle's very good. I think we might see a lot of Alvin Kamara in the middle of the game and the beginning of the game. I don't know why I started with the middle. And the end of the game. Well, we'll see about the end of the game if it's close. But yeah, I think it's going to be the Alvin Kamara show. But I still think Callaway is kind of interesting until Michael Thomas comes back. And as far as I see, there's no rush on that. It seems like I thought he is eligible this week, but I don't think he's back. So again, it seems like it's still a week or two away. So Michael Thomas, if you have an IR spot, for whatever reason he's not owned, that doesn't make any sense. But you should put him in your spot, as an IR, because he's Michael Thomas. Like, he's been a best wide receiver in fantasy, so in the past, so somebody that should be owned, and is going to be interesting here in a couple weeks. If you don't have an IR spot, just somebody that now will get kind of close. If you have a spot available, he might be worth picking up at this point because we're getting close.
Yep, sure. All right, last one of Week 7. The Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks. It's not what you like to hear if you're a Seahawks fan, or really an owner of most people on the Seahawks. Obviously, Geno's irrelevant. I can't see a situation where you're trotting him out there. Collins had a decent day.
Look good.
16 looked good. Pretty happy with that. So I mean, he's probably a guy you're running out there, I would assume, in almost every league. Metcalf, you're running out there every week. He was 29, so not fantastic, but you're running him out there. Lockett's officially, for me, you're gonna have to show me something unless I'm desperate.
Yeah,
Which is crazy because I wondered early in the season if he was gonna end up being like a top 3 wide receiver.
Yeah, he had his first couple weeks, but with Russell out, like, we needed a catch from him, just one catch to win our league, and it wasn't until halfway through the third, and he only finished with 2. Did have 7 targets. I don't remember seeing all those because it didn't seem like those balls were that close to Lockett. So I don't know. I watched this game quite closely because I needed that Lockett catch, and I don't really see him. They say 7 targets, and usually I'm like, okay, he's decently involved. I didn't feel like he was involved at all. But yeah, 2 for 35. I mean, we were in this spot where we have Cortland Sutton going on Thursday night, or Lockett. And with what Sutton's been doing, I think we got to sit Lockett. The other options are McLaurin and Hopkins, who are going to be in there. So I think Lockett's the guy who's the odd man out. And you may not have that luxury depending on the size of your league. And, if you're in a deep league, you're not sitting Tyler Lockett. But if you have a luxury, I think he's like in that 20, almost maybe close to wide receiver 30, maybe. I gotta have to look down.
I think 30 is nice.
There's 6 teams on bye, so like he's probably in the. I'm gonna say he's probably around 25-ish, but yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like they have him at like somewhere in the 20s, low 20s. But yeah, he's probably gonna be ranked around there with 6 teams on bye, but. I feel like if you have better options, I think there's a shot you do. I don't feel comfortable with it. Options. Yeah.
I'm probably also adjusting my expectations with Metcalf. Like, I still think Metcalf is a start, but with Geno in there instead, you also have to kind of lower your expectations at least.
Yeah, and you got to think too, like going into the season, obviously Lockett got off to that hot start, so you might think that he was the number one guy. And Metcalf was the number one guy,
Yeah.
so they're not treated real. Metcalf was drafted at wide receiver 6, so
No.
we're expecting bigger things from him. That's what he was drafted as. He's been better overall, more consistent for sure than Lockett.
Yeah.
Lockett's basically all his production
Well,
is from the first 2
Lockett's been
weeks.
consistent. It's just not good.
But yeah, Metcalf has been solid the last 4 weeks. Not amazing, but week 3, week 5, he was very good. But yeah, he's been really solid. So Lockett hasn't been good since week 2. He was very good in week 1 and 2. So when you bench him, you're giving up a crazy high upside. I say that though, I'm not sure if that upside really exists with Geno Smith. So he always has a chance to have a long touchdown as Tyler Lockett, but Geno did not look good, and it's kind of you might be forced to sit Lockett till Russell gets back. If you have an owner who especially if Lockett doesn't have a good game here, I do like him late season though when Russell comes back. If a team needs to win now, if you're looking good for the rest of the season, I still think Lockett. We saw in the first couple of weeks. I think he still could have a really good end of the season. Just have to wait a few weeks until Russell gets back, which I think Russell will be back right when he gets off IR. I don't think he's going to be much longer than that. So a few more weeks, and we'll see Russell back out there, I think.
Yep. All right. And like we said at the top, Jags, Vikings, Chargers, Cowboys, Steelers, Bills are your bye weeks this week. One of the biggest list of bye weeks, I think. I just glanced real quick, but I think 6 might be the max.
Yeah, I think so. I think
of any week
that's
this
the most they
season.
do.
So
yeah.
So decent amount of bye weeks this week. Might be in some positions where you got to make some decisions. Hopefully we helped out a little bit. If you made it this far, thank you. Much appreciated. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. We're putting out 5 a week. Tuesdays are injuries and waiver. Wednesdays are the show you just watched. Kind of going through every game for the upcoming season. And then after that, it gets a little bit shaky. It's kind of whatever we feel like for the other 3. So I know this week we're kind of planning going back a little bit to our focusing on one player or one situation. We're going to do a couple quick ones on that, but kind of up in the air what we do the rest of the weeks. But thanks for coming by. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, I think you just took everything. So yeah, thank you so much. Really does. All the interaction, comments, all that stuff, likes, subscribe. Well, subscriptions maybe doesn't help us, but it makes you see it. So we appreciate that. Makes us feel better too that we're doing something right. So thank you so much. You guys are great. Yeah, and that's all we got. Have a good one. Peace.
See ya.